Hello, we're going to work on photoshopping the selfies that you took for class today. I'm going to use some photos of Nelson Mandela and I'm opening them through the File Open menu, even though I could just grab them from my recent photos here. So this will be a little bit more like what you're doing. I'm going to grab 3 of these photos and open them up. They will open in 3 separate tabs in Photoshop. And my goal here is to make sure they're all grayscaled and to get them into a vertical format. I asked you to make sure that your photos were in portrait rather than landscape format, and 2 of these are, one of them is not. So this one is looking pretty good. I think that this may already be a grayscale photo. So I'm going Image, Mode, whoop, Grayscale. Mine is already checked because mine is a grayscale photo. Yours may not be. It probably will be CMYK or possibly RGB, so just click grayscale there. You'll get a little message that asks you if you're sure you want to grayscale it. I'm going to go to this one now, and again, I suspect this is already a grayscale photo. Image mode, no, it's RGB. It looks grayscale to me. I'm just going to grayscale it to show you this message that you'll get. Discard color information? Yes, discard it. And my third photo here happens to be in a horizontal format. You may have a photo that's in a horizontal format that you really like. You're required to finish your typographical self-portrait in a vertical A3 format because I want the portraits to be as large as possible in the format that we're going to be printing them. So to use a photo like this, I would have to get it into a vertical format by cropping it. I'm going to zoom in by going Command plus or Control plus if you're on a Windows computer. By default, things open up with the crop tool open in Photoshop. If for some reason you don't see the little crop handles here, simply click the crop tool. I'm going to pull this across about like that and say that still looks pretty square to me. I'm going to do my final cropping in the InDesign template, but I'd like to sort of roughly see whether or not this might work. I think A3 is going to be something in that neighborhood. So I'm going to hit return to accept the crop. And again, I'm pretty sure this is already grayscaled, and it is. So I'm going to save each of these as, so that I don't lose my original files. I'm going to just save them on my computer, sure, InDesign PowerPoints as a JPEG, and I'll call this Mandela Prison cropped so I can distinguish it from the others. I want a nice large file. I'm going to ask for a baseline or standard format option. Go to each of these and simply save them as the same way. There we go. I'm going to crop this one a little bit more here, maybe like this to make it a little more asymmetrical. Hit return and save as. There we go. This would be a good time. I didn't feel any of my photos needed this, but if you feel that some of them are a little dark or a little light or need a little more contrast, remember that you're going to be drawing over these photographs, and so it may not matter a whole lot if they're really high resolution, but you want to be able to read them and be able to draw over them. So I could certainly make some image adjustments, maybe brighten this thing up a little bit or increase its contrast a little bit if I felt that made it a stronger image for me to work over. I kind of like that, actually. I'm going to click OK and save it again. Okay. Now we're going to take these photos into InDesign. I'm going to open InDesign, and if I'm very lucky here, I'll have that template already. This template you'll find in Canvas. I believe it's in step 2 of the assignment. There's a link, you click on it, InDesign should open. For now, I'm going to close this links menu so that we can see things a little better. You'll remember from working with InDesign before that there are, InDesign likes to import content into frames, and there are 3 frames in here. I'm going to select the first one, and I'm going to use, as we have done before, the place command to choose Nelson Mandela 1962 cropped. I'm going to pop him in there. He's a little bit smaller than my frame. It's not a big photo. So I'm going to use the fitting commands to see if I can make him fit into there a little bit more closely. I don't want to distort my frame, and I'll tell you why in a moment here. I'm going to try fill frame proportionally and see how that works. That looks pretty good to me. The frames are designed to be exactly the proportions of an A3 sheet of paper. And that's a little bit different from an 8.5 by 11. So and obviously it's going to be very different from the proportions of many of your photographs. So you're going to use these frames that I put in here as basically cropping tools. If you want to see how big this photograph is behind the cropping frame, you can click on it and move it around like this, but right now it's just about where it needs to be. There's really nothing more to be done with this one. Let's try to put one in that is a little bit different in proportion from the frame. And we're going to go Object. Oops, first we have to place something. Sorry, we're going to go File, Place. We're going to grab, let's see, Nelson Mandela Prison cropped. This one is one that I did some cropping on it, and it seemed a little uncertain. That really isn't bad, but I'm going to go Object, Fitting, Fill Frame Proportionally, and see what it does. There, it makes it a little bit smaller, and I like that because I get a little bit of the hand and the fingers here. Again, I can try moving this around and see if I like it any better. That way I get a little bit more of the elbow, the head comes awfully close to the edge. I may have preferred it before, I think. So I'm going to leave it like that. Remember that the other thing that you can do is to go Object, Select, Content. Whoops, except I don't have the right one selected here with my black selection tool. Object, Select, Content. There we go. And this allows you to see the little brown line here is the photograph sticking out past the frame, and I now can shrink or grow the photograph by dragging on these handles, right? I don't really want to do that, so I was pretty happy with it the way it was, so I'll Command Z that transformation, and we'll go on to the third image here. We're going to go File, Place. We're going to grab, let's see, I think this is the third one that I had altered. And this is a very, very big photograph. Obviously, I want more than his nose, nice as it is. So I'm going to go Object, Fitting, Fill Frame Proportionally, and see if I like that. I think I may go Object, Select, Content, just to see how much of this I'm missing. Oh, very, very little. And the big question would be whether I want this ear to touch that edge. I could try with the ear actually overlapping the edge to see if I like that better, or with the ear clear of the edge a little bit, and I think actually I like that the best. So I'm gonna settle for these 3 compositions. Now, again, I want to stress before you finish this, make sure that you have not distorted any of the frames. It's very, very easy to do. When they're selected, you can resize the frames very, very easily, especially by choosing the wrong fitting command. So make sure that the frames look as they did when they started. They should be all lined up along the bottom here and have even margins. And if you really want to make sure you can download another copy and open it in another tab so that you can look. That way your designs are all laid out for you in terms of the A3 proportions that you will need for your final presentation. Now, of course, I'm going to embed these linked files. These little links simply show us that InDesign is paying attention to the address of the file, but it hasn't embedded the file. So we're going to go to the links menu either by clicking this little critter here if you see it, or if you don't, in your window, you can always go to layer or to window links and click on that to open the links menu. I'm going to select the first, shift select the last to get them all, and then we're going to go up to the links menu itself, and we're going to go down to embed link. And when I click on that, on all three of my files, the little chain will disappear, and I will be able to now print this file out with the full resolution of whatever photographs I've got. At this point, I am going to go ahead and go File, Print. The printer that comes up for me will be different from the one for you. You only need a black and white printer for these, obviously, and truth to tell, if you had forgotten to grayscale your photographs, you would be grayscaling them simply by sending them to a black and white printer. But you do need a black and white grayscale printout, hard copy of these files. I'm not going to actually print mine, I'm just going to cancel this, but you will print yours in your portfolio presentation.